this session. And then towards the end, we will break out into breakout rooms if you have specific questions of the individual agencies. So uh, my name is Will Fett, and I am the Beginning Farmer Coordinator for USDA Oregon. My specific role, though, is as Outreach Coordinator for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And I'm here today with some of my colleagues who are responsible for beginning farmer programs in their agencies, and we'll get a chance to hear from them as well. I'm going to jump into today's presentation, and first off, I want to kind of define what beginning farmers are for USDA. And in general, there are some slight differences in definition, but in general, we're talking about those producers who have 10 years experience or less. What we are trying to do is, as an agency, really focus on getting those producers with 10 years or less up and running, and with the resources and programs that are going to make them successful long-term in food production and conservation and farm programs. So typically, we are tracking your experience by your Schedule F, your tax submissions, but what we are doing is looking for those 10 years experience. For FSA specifically, we're doing this to ensure loan eligibility requirements and making sure that that you qualify for those specific benefits. Beginning farmers and ranchers are part of historically underserved groups that have been identified through USDA and the farm bills. Other historically underserved groups include socially disadvantaged, military veterans, and limited resource farmers. So what we as an agency are really trying to do is ensure that all of those groups that have been historically underserved get the access to the resources, programs, and financial assistance that they might need. Again, veteran farmers and ranchers do fall into this category of historically underserved, but for the purpose of while they're all eligible to take part of the programs, the benefits that may be available are very similar to those that are producers of beginning farmers and ranchers. So those who have 10 years experience of less, or have been out of the military, out of active service for 10 years or less. When you, as a beginning farmer, want to get started working with USDA, a good place to start is with your local USDA service center. There is a local service center in almost every single county across the country, and specifically here in Oregon, there's local service centers in almost every single county. So there's a local place to start. And then some of the agencies are regional. So we'll hear from Risk Management Agency and Rural Development that have regional offices, but still can serve all producers all across the state and country. Today, we will be focusing on 4 agencies under the USDA umbrella: the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the Risk Management Agency, Farm Service Agency, and USDA Rural Development. And like I said, we're going to try and focus on those programs and opportunities available for urban and small scale producers. So if we start with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, this agency focuses on technical assistance and financial assistance for implementing good conservation practices in farm operations of all sizes. And here in Oregon, that could be livestock, it could be crop, it could be forest land, and it's small half-acre, less than a half-acre, to very, very large 13,000-acre ranches. The technical assistance piece of that is anything that can help implement good conservation with adequately providing livestock water, or providing livestock health and nutrition through the grass that they're grazing. Or it could be more crop focused, like cover crops and holding soil in place. But we know that technical assistance alone might not get the job done, so we offer financial assistance to help ensure the implementation of those conservation programs. There's a number of conservation practices that are available for urban and small scale producers. And what I have done here on this slide is shown you the list of those practices that might be most applicable to urban and small scale scenarios. Now, really, these programs are can be tailored towards again, farms of any size, but we really want to kind of elevate and raise up those practices that are going to be most applicable. This is not an extensive, exhaustive list. This is the ones that are going to be probably the best in urban and small scale scenarios. Things like mulching, things like nutrient management and ensuring the good nutrients for the plants and the crop that you're growing. High tunnel systems, low tunnel systems, and even things like pollinators that can help improve the overall function of the land that you're managing. I'm going to go into some details of some of these more specifically. So a high tunnel system, think greenhouse, but not a permanent structure. These are usually U-shaped frames buildings that cover the soil directly. So you're still growing something in the native soil, but you're managing the temperature, you're managing the water, you're better able to manage pests and insects, and you're better able to manage nutrients in that application. So these can be really good systems for helping ensure high plant productivity, and can be very, very cost-effective and efficient systems in small scale production. Low tunnel systems are a little bit newer, but these are looking at kind of netted or mesh coverings that can be 4 feet or lower to the ground. So again, you're looking at managing pests, keeping insects away from crops. It does help manage the wind, the sun exposure, and this can be done throughout the growing season, or it can be done at the either end of the growing season to extend that growing season. So low tunnel systems are kind of a nice newish idea. And then we also like to promote the use of cover crops. Even in a small scale scenario, cover crops help hold the soil in place, but then can also add good organic matter to the soil profile, helping ensure that the nutrients are available for the crop. Another good practice is pollinator plantings, and what this can do is help increase the good pollinator insects that are available, so that if you are working with a crop that needs to be pollinated, that you have those good bees and moths and butterflies and other insects that are going to promote pollination across your entire crop. But usually what this looks like is a pollinator planting around the edge of the property, so that you're increasing insect habitat around the edge of your property where you're not actively growing a cash crop. Another practice we like to promote is crop rotation. So as you are very likely aware of, in a vegetable production operation, similar vegetables are going to take similar nutrients out of the ground. So you don't want to plant tomatoes on top of tomatoes on top of tomatoes in multiple successive seasons. Crop rotation and moving the tomato bed to a different part of the high tunnel or a different part of the field is going to allow for nutrients to kind of rebuild in the soil, especially if you're following up with things like a legume crop. So ensuring that crop rotation has good nutrient availability in the soil is a very positive thing. So those are just a couple of the practices. We have a whole suite of conservation practices available to urban and small scale producers, and can really be tailored to your operation. But I want to talk about how does this all work. And so the first step is the planning process and connecting with a conservation planner through your local USDA office. They'll have a conversation with you, talk about your goals, what you want to achieve, what are your resource concerns, anything that you specifically want to address, so that they can identify the conservation practices that can best be implemented. Then there's an application process. This year, we'll have a due date towards the end of November, and that due date will be announced very soon. Once that application is submitted, we will check eligibility, and your application will be ranked along with other applications that we receive. Unfortunately, we can't fund everybody, but we can fund a lot of applications because the Inflation Reduction Act has enabled us to get more conservation on the ground with more landowners and producers. But ultimately, we're there with you every step of the way through implementation of that conservation practice and ensuring successful projects start to finish. As I said, the deadline for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program will be towards the end of November. And then the second conservation program is the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is a little bit of a more advanced program. That deadline is typically in March. But we accept applications year-round, and so would encourage you at any time to start that conversation with your district conservationist through your local service center. I mentioned historically underserved producers, and the benefits to historically underserved, again, beginning farmers and ranchers being one of those groups, is typically a higher payment rate, advanced payment options. So where a lot of times we would reimburse the producer, historically underserved producers have access to advanced payments up to 50%. And then priority of funding. So one of the ranking questions that we utilize in determining the the applications is whether or not they've been a customer with us before, and beginning farmers and ranchers who we haven't typically worked with will usually get bumped to the top of the consideration list. The contract timing is such end of November or March so that it can go into implementation in the next growing season. The EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, is typically a 1 to 3 year contract, whereas the Conservation Stewardship Program is a 5-year contract. And like I said, technical assistance is available throughout this entire process. So that's some of the details about the Natural Resources Conservation Service and our Environmental Quality Incentives Program. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time, and we will have breakout sessions at the end of today's presentation. Wallace Jennings is one of our conservation planners who is on with us today, and he will be helping field questions with the breakout session at the end. Before I pass it over, I am going to briefly talk about the Farm Service Agency and what they have available. So the Farm Service Agency kind of has two categories of offerings. The first is farm programs, which can help with things like disaster assistance. But from a beginning farmer rancher point of view, you might be more interested in the Farm Service Agency's loan programs. Whenever you start working with the Farm Service Agency, it's good to establish a record with them if you don't already have one. And so visiting that office with proof of identity, typically a driver's license, the land that you're working with, if you own, they would like to see a copy of the deed. If you're leasing, they'd like to see a copy of your lease agreement. and then what type of farm business you have. So if you're a sole proprietorship, a corporation, an LLC, all of those details are going to be important to establish a farm record. So here are some of the farm programs that are available through the Farm Service Agency. Again, disaster programs, but then also crop acreage reporting and a farm storage facility loan program. Here are the overview of the farm programs and the farm loans. Now, when we start talking about farm loans, there are different types of loans that might make the most sense depending on your unique scenario. Ownership loans, operating loans, microloans, and then guaranteed loans. The first three there are directly through the Farm Service Agency, but guaranteed loans are working with a lender like a bank, but the USDA guarantees them and stands behind them. And we have a list of institutions, financial institutions that we work with to guarantee those loans. They do require eligibility and having a good credit history, but what we're really trying to do is be a lender that can work with farmers. Operating loans can be used to purchase equipment, livestock. There is a $400,000 limit. It's those guaranteed loans that allow for a higher limit of lending, in most cases up to 1.5 million, but direct operating loans have a $400,000 limit. Farm ownership loans, so this is where you would, this is the loan that you would use to potentially purchase a farm, has a $600,000 limit. But again, if you're looking to purchase a larger piece of property, a guaranteed loan can be up to 1.5 million. This is the one that I want to spend a little bit more time on today because from a small or urban setting, this might make more sense to you. Microloans are up to $50,000. The nice thing about this is that it is a slightly simpler application process, and it might be a scale that it makes a little bit more sense. If you are just looking to purchase 1 acre, a microloan might be a possibility for you. So microloans are going to have repayment terms of 1 to 7 years, and this kind of and that's for operating, and then for ownership up to 25 years. So again, if you're only looking to purchase 1 or 2 acres and can fall under that $50,000 limit, this becomes a venue for a lot that might make a lot more sense for the scale that you're working with. So guaranteed loans, and again, depending on the kind, they are up to they are a much higher limit. 1.5 million for some guaranteed loans, but other guaranteed loans up to $2 million limit. For beginning farmers, those that are looking to purchase property, one option is the down payment loan, and this becomes a very good loan program to use. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but if you are in a scenario that you're looking to purchase property, this is a good one to consider. I'm going to stop there with Farm Service Agency and NRCS, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna from the Risk Management Agency to share a little bit about crop insurance and other programs that they have.
Thank you so much. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. One second. And if you could just let me know when that works, I would appreciate it.
Looks good. Thanks.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. Okay. So as I said, my name is Anastasia Griffin, and I am with the Risk Management Agency. And our regional office covers the states here in the Pacific Northwest. And before I get started, I'd just like to share this disclaimer with everyone. So just to let you know, the purpose of the following material is to promote awareness of risk management concepts and to highlight USDA's risk management products, features, benefits, and availability. This material does not change the content or the meaning of current policy provisions, filed actuarial documents, or approved procedures. So again, I am with the Risk Management Agency Spokane Regional Office, and we administer the federal crop insurance programs in Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We also provide outreach to help farmers with risk management tools. RMA's vision is to secure the future of agriculture by providing world-class risk management tools to rural America. So RMA is responsible for developing and maintaining federal crop insurance policies. This includes determining the rates, prices, and yields for each crop at the county level every year. RMA is also in charge of compliance to prevent fraud or abuse. Private insurance companies and agents are responsible for selling crop insurance policies to farmers and settling their claims. The federal government subsidizes the premiums to reduce the cost of crop insurance for farmers and reinsures the private insurance companies to share the cost of the claims. So what is crop insurance? Federal crop insurance provides protection from production loss, price decline, or a combination of both for individual commodities. There are production and revenue plans of insurance, which are based on a farmer's actual production history. Area plans of insurance that are based on averages in an area, as in by county. The Farm Service Agency also has a non-insured crop disaster assistance program, otherwise known as NAP, that is available in counties where RMA crop insurance is not available for a particular crop. This provides financial assistance to producers of non-insurable crops to protect against natural disasters that result in lower yields or crop losses or prevented crop planting. So again, the Farm Service Agency's NAP coverage provides financial assistance to producers of non-insurable crops to protect against natural disasters that result in those lower yields or crop losses. But that is, of course, separate from RMA. That is an FSA program or Farm Service Agency. So why should you consider getting federal crop insurance for your farm or ranch? Well, it may help you stay in business after a bad weather event or a low production year. The government subsidizes the premium to make it more affordable. It provides some financial stability and it may improve your access to credit. Organically grown crops are covered under the crop insurance program as long as recognized organic farming practices are used. Production-based policies ensure against yield losses due to natural causes such as adverse weather, wildlife, insects, and disease. If the harvested plus any appraised production is less than the yield insured, the producer is paid an indemnity based on the difference. Revenue policies provide protection against price decline or increase or a combination of both, in addition to yield losses. Projected and harvest prices are used to establish your coverage and to determine whether you have a loss. There is additional premium cost for this added coverage. There are 4 phases of the crop insurance cycle each year. The insurance plan, level of coverage, and price are selected when you submit an application. It is important to know the sales closing and cancellation dates. These are the deadlines for buying or canceling your policy. There is also a date for reporting how many acres of the crops you plant to determine your premium. You also have to provide a notice of loss to start the claim process in phase 3. Additionally, RMA may make program changes prior to next year's contract change date. And now on to our urban and small scale farm resources. So if you're farming or gardening in a city or suburb, what can you do with crop insurance? From community gardens and indoor vertical farms, urban agriculture provides critical access to healthy food for local communities, as well as jobs, increased green spaces, and closer community ties. USDA provides a wide variety of resources to help urban farmers, including administering federal crop insurance, which can help farmers manage the risk on their operation. RMA is committed to providing risk management options for all types of agricultural producers, including urban farmers and growers, using innovative production methods, indoor controlled environment agriculture, rooftop farms, outdoor vertical production, green walls, high-tech vertical farms, greenhouses, and hydroponic, aeroponic, or aquaponic farms. The microfarm and whole farm revenue protection programs ensure revenue earned by selling crops and value-added products. The Controlled Environment Program is an inventory-based program that offers insurance for destruction orders for plant diseases and contamination introduced from the environment, even though all biosecurity protocols were followed. So, what does revenue mean? Uh, Whole farm revenue protection provides against loss of revenue from all commodities produced on your farm. This includes decline in production, price, or quality from unavoidable natural causes. There's also provisions for replant or if you're unable to plant. Different from whole farm, but under that program is what we refer to as microfarm. Under microfarm, there is one single commodity code for all the commodities in your farming operation. Also different from whole farm, the history period for microfarm is consecutive tax years prior to the policy year with a minimum of 3 years. Microfarm is tailored for any farm with up to $350,000 in revenue from agricultural commodities, including farms with specialty or organic commodities, both crops and livestock, or those marketing to local, regional, and farm identity, preserved, specialty, or direct markets. Market readiness and post-production operations such as canning, freezing, and processing activities can be included in your allowable revenue and will be used when calculating your farm's insurance guarantee under microfarm. Revenue from sources other than agricultural commodities such as bottled water or souvenir sales must be removed from allowable revenue for this program. So again, microfarm is essentially a crop provision under the whole farm revenue protection, and it has a sales closing date in our region of April 15th for calendar year filers and early fiscal year filers, and November 20th for late fiscal year filers. If you meet the eligibility requirements at the sales closing date and you elect to purchase coverage under these microfarm provisions, these provisions will be attached to and made part of the whole farm revenue protection provisions. Your farm's approved revenue will be determined by several items, including your whole farm history report, your farm operation report, and the coverage level that you choose between 50 and 85%. Make sure you contact a crop insurance agent to learn more about microfarm and how it will work for your farming operation. I will provide details at the end of this presentation on how to find a crop insurance agent. Now, as I mentioned briefly before, Controlled Environment is a new program, and it is available in select counties in multiple states. In the Pacific Northwest region, it is available in Washington and Oregon. So for Washington, the counties of Benton, Franklin, Grant, and Yakima are available. And for Oregon, the counties of Clackamas, Lynn, Marion, Multnomah, Polk, Washington, and Yamhill counties. And again, just as a reminder, this program does require an inspection before the insurance coverage begins. So the insured crops for the controlled environment program will be all plants within each insured plant production practice for CAT coverage or catastrophic coverage, and each plant category for additional levels of coverage. Requirements include 40% of the gross income coming from wholesale marketing, meeting all insurability requirements, and the plants being grown in the appropriate medium. Plants may not be insurable if they are grown in containers containing 2 or more different genera, species, subspecies, varieties, or cultivars. Additionally, they may not be insurable if they are any plant that is classified by a state or county as illegal to grow or sell in that county in which the nursery is located, or are grown as stock plants. Okay, and then just to let everyone know, there is a lot of information on the Risk Management Agency's homepage. I have the website there at the top. So I encourage everyone to go to that website to take a look at the risk management information that is available on our website. And the next step would potentially be to locate a crop insurance agent. So I have here a screenshot. You can find an agent by clicking up there. I have it circled in red on Tools and Reports, and then selecting the Agent Locator button as circled underneath that, also in red. The RMA website also has information specific to beginning or veteran farmers or urban farmers. So in that case, you would want to click on the links that are circled below in yellow on the RMA website, or there's also a button just located just underneath that to find an agent. And once you click on that button, it will take you to the agent locator tool, and then you can just enter in your either your zip code or where you're located. You can also find an agent by inputting certain other parameters like specific crops that you're growing or languages and information such as that. And lastly, I just wanted to go over really quickly some general benefits that RMA has for beginning farmer ranchers in general. So again, these benefits are ones that we will give to beginning farmers and ranchers, which would include an additional premium subsidy. And then also one of the big points would be the exemption from the administrative fee for the catastrophic policies that you might want to be taking. So those are just some benefits that we have. We also have some that would increase the substitute yield adjustment, which would be allowing you to replace a low yield that is due to an insured cause of loss. So that would go from 60 to 80% of the applicable transitional yield. So with that, I have my contact information here, or I will also put my email address in the chat. So if ever anyone has any questions, I'm also going to be available afterwards in our breakout session rooms. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions for that. And then I think, Erica, you're going to be up next, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Let me,
Thank you.
yeah, let me see about. Unsharing my screen.
I think I can do that.
Oh, okay.
All right. Hang on. Okay. I think I have my presentation up. Hello, everybody. My name is Erica Knight, and I am going to be presenting the Value Added Producer Grant for our topic of the day for urban agriculture and small scale farms. Yeah, okay. So the Value Added Producer Grant program helps urban and rural agricultural producers enter into value added activities related to the planning, processing, and marketing of new products. The goals of this program are to generate new products, create and expand marketing opportunities, and increase producer income. Grants, the Value Added Producer Grant is awarded through a national competition each year. And the notice will be published in the Federal Register and through an announcement posted on grants.gov. So, who is eligible? There are 4 types of agricultural or applicant types. Agricultural producer, which is just your regular farmer or rancher. An agricultural producer group, which is a group of farmers or ranchers, a farmer or rancher cooperative, and or a majority controlled producer-based business venture. We do also provide priority points for those that qualify as a beginning farmer rancher, a socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher, a small to medium-sized farmer ranch structured as a family farm, farmer or rancher cooperatives, or if your project is proposing a mid-tier value chain. So the definition of an agricultural producer is an individual that owns 100% and controls every aspect of the farm operation. 51% or more of the raw commodity for the project must be produced and owned by that agricultural producer. You can't use purchased commodity in order to create a value-added product. It has to come from your farm, leased or owned, but it needs to be owned and cultivated by you. Agricultural producer groups are typically nonprofit membership organizations that represent ag producers whose missions include working on behalf of the producer. So, and at least 50% of the membership and board of directors must be comprised of ag producers. So not everyone has to be a agricultural producer, but at least 50% do. Farmer or rancher cooperatives must be owned and controlled by agricultural producers, and it must be incorporated in the state in which it operates as a cooperatively owned business. And you also would get priority points if you apply as a cooperative. And then lastly, majority controlled producer-based business ventures are entities, except for farmer or rancher cooperatives, in which more than 50% of the financial ownership and voting control is held by agricultural producers. So in this case, if you have a passive investor who owns less than 50% of the business and is not an agricultural producer, they can still apply as this applicant type. So what is considered a value-added product? Well, there are a lot of different things that could be considered value-added for the purpose of this grant, but I'm going to go over a couple that I think would pertain mostly to an urban agriculture or small-scale farm setting. So we've got 5 methodologies here: change in physical state, produced in a manner that enhances the value of the agricultural commodity, product segregation, farm or ranch-based renewable energy, locally produced agricultural food product. Change in physical state is the most common. Examples include, but are not limited to, cuts of meat, cured or smoked meats, semi-cooked meat products, fiber that is turned into home goods such as rugs, bags, pillowcases, etc. Grapes that are turned into wine, or raw veggies fermented into, like a pickled veggie, or I don't know, sauerkraut. That's what I can think of right now, thinking about Oktoberfest. Um, the next methodology is produced in a manner that enhances the value, kind of a mouthful, but that's just a long way of saying, is it organic? Is it free range? Is it grass fed? So all of those things you can slap on a label and put a premium on it, and therefore it is produced, it is giving it value added to it. Product segregation is very similar to produced in a manner, except that this category can look a little different for GMO versus non-GMO produced commodities. It also, it has to say separate from the GMO fed chickens in this example through harvest and all the way through marketing. Farm or ranch-based renewable energy is probably the least common methodology that I see, but because the only time I would ever see a project like this would be if a producer wanted to use the, waste product from maybe their dairy operation and turn it into methane via an anaerobic digester. On-farm generation of energy, such as wind, solar, geothermal, hydro sources, is not considered a renewable energy value-added product. It's only an energy source that you can create from a byproduct, maybe. Well, yeah, I can't really think of any others except for the methane, but that's why it's the least common. And lastly, we have locally produced agricultural food product. This one is, in my opinion, kind of a workaround for a lot of reasons, because you don't need to really change anything to the product itself. You simply need to advertise it and sell it within a 400-mile radius, and advertise it as a locally produced food. Just similar to what you would see at a farmer's market, where they have locally grown carrots and they sell them for a premium. The one thing I would try and, I would recommend, just for like scoring sake, to try and only include things that have specific characteristics to it. A good example that I don't have on the screen right now is Willamette Valley grapes. Those are very specific to the region, geographic region, and there are a lot of studies that show the grapes from the Willamette Valley have far-reaching influence and presence in other parts of the world. So that would be a really good one for this methodology. So how can the funds be used? Working capital is the most common way I see people applying for this grant. There are two different tracks. The first track is working capital. This can include processing costs such as slaughter fees or processing fees, transportation fees from a processing facility, not to a processing facility, and I'll get into that in a second. Packaging, labels, shipping, transaction fees, point of sale equipment, vacuum sealers, spices, seasonings, so many different things in terms of processing. And if you have specific questions about what examples of what expenses would be eligible, definitely reach out, because it feels like the possibilities are endless. And then marketing and advertising expenses, also a pretty limitless list, but it can include some in-person marketing labor, materials, online marketing, and website development. And then it can also be, the working capital grant can be used to purchase additional raw commodity, but only up to 49% for the total amount for the project. And these, whatever the raw commodity is, it has to be fully grown or fully ready for harvest at the time you purchase it. It can't be seeds. So going back up to the transportation from processing facility, you can only include expenses that are post-harvest. So while the animals are still alive or while the crop is still in the ground, all expenses that you incur in order to cultivate the product cannot be included. It's only post-harvest activities and expenses. So transportation to a processing facility, gas, would not be eligible, but back from a processing facility would be. So it's a very specific expense. And then down at the bottom, you can see this grant is a maximum of $250,000. The other track that I was talking about is the planning grant activities track. And really, this one is for those who are still in the beginning phases of vamping up their business, and they want to do a study to see if it's even feasible. And so this grant helps you by paying a qualified consultant to conduct a feasibility study and help you develop a business plan or a marketing plan. And this one is a maximum of 75 grand. Couple ineligible uses of funds include purchase of land, buildings, or equipment. Equipment is kind of changing in the years to come. So if you have any specific questions about equipment, definitely reach out. Preparation of the grant application, research and development, architectural and engineering design work, and expenses for the production, harvesting, or delivery of a processing or delivery to a processing facility. So that's what I mentioned previously. No production, only processing, post-harvest processing. This grant is a match, has a match requirement. It is a 50% match requirement, and it can only be spent on eligible expenses and spent in advance of grant funding. So for every dollar of grant funds dispersed, no less than an equal amount of matching funds will have been expended prior to submitting a request, meaning you need to purchase whatever or pay whatever expense, and then you will get reimbursed. But there are, let me see, there are a couple ways that you can provide your matching source. It doesn't have to be cash necessarily. There is an in-kind match option, meaning either the value of your raw commodity or the value of your labor. Those are two in-kind matching fund sources that you can use for this grant instead of cash. So how do you get started? Well, the first place to look is SAM, the System for Award Management. We call it SAM. SAM.gov is the place where you will register your entity or yourself as a sole proprietor to receive federal grant funding. You will receive a UEI, which is known as a unique entity identifier. And these two items, registering in SAM and also getting a UEI number, are essential to receiving any federal grant funding. So the faster you get started on this, the better, because you do have to go through some checks and balances in order to get approved and have an active SAM registration. And hey, I guess we're at the end. Here's my contact information, erica.knight@usda.gov, and then my phone number if you would like to give me a call. And And then lastly, I will put this in the chat, but if you want to sign up to receive email notifications about this grant before even I do, including the deadline and the application notice, you can sign up for that through GovDelivery. And that's just a really awesome way to stay up to date on all updates via APG. Thank you. Thank you very much.